Hey everyone, Clawland here, and you're watching Left Hand Reviews. Now if you watched my last video review, you know we took a look at a fantastic card game called Elemental Clash. If you haven't had the chance to watch that review, I suggest you go do it now, because in this one, we're going to take a look at one of the expansions, Elemental Clash Underworld. So I'm not going to really go into the rules. So again, if you haven't watched the Elemental Clash base set review, I would definitely suggest you go watch that now and then come back and check out what is new in the Underworld expansion. So overall, you have a whole ton of new cards, around 200 more new cards, and several new types. So you're going to have neutral creatures, which first make their appearance here in Underworld. You have dual element stones, which are stones that are going to provide two different types of energy as opposed to just one. And you also have a neutralization type effect, which can be on creatures or on spells. So let's take a look at what you get. I'm going to show you some of these new types of cards, and I'm just going to go over some of my favorite cards and tactics with the Underworld expansion. Elemental Clash Underworld is going to come in the same size box as the original, and these are kind of a lower quality box. It's not something that I think is meant to be reused over and over. It just has a tab open to open it here. But the thing is, with this type of game, you're going to pull the cards out of the box, and then you're going to make your own decks, and I don't think there's any real reason that you would reuse these boxes over and over again. You're more likely going to create some form of storage solution because of all the different cards that you're going to acquire over time. So presently what I use are these boxes that are actually for business cards, because the cards fit in them quite nicely. But a lot of people have all sorts of different storage solutions, similar to what you would do with with Magic, with Dominion, and other games that just have constantly increasing card quantities. So here is the stack of cards that you're going to get with Elemental Clash Underworld. It's about 200 more cards. Again, you're only going to have 3 duplicates of each card, because that's the most that you're allowed to have in your deck. So that means there are a lot of new cards in here. And you can see, I'll just spread them out. I mean, there is a lot there. And I also mentioned in the intro that there are a few different new types of cards. So let's just go over some of those now, and also talk about some of the tactics I like and some of the other new cards in this set that I really enjoy. So I just set some aside here already. So let's take a look at them. So the first one here is called Mind Blocker. This is a permanent spell, and it says that Boon does not take effect. Now, if you remember, Boon is an ability that cards have that when they are placed directly from the spellbook onto the archive, which is the discard pile, they immediately come into play and take effect. And that can be a very, very strong strategy, and that's one that I really enjoy. So every time you are you're a player, your opponent is attacking you, and you're constantly putting more and more of your cards into the discard pile, you actually get to keep putting new stuff into play without having to pay for it. So that's what makes Boon extremely strong. So people that want to fight against Boon decks are going to be really wanting to play a spell like Mind Blocker, because it says Boon does not take effect. And if the Boon deck player does not have a spell or creature that can destroy a spell like this, they're going to be in big, big trouble. Now you also have the introduction of neutral cards, and again, look at this one here. You can see this is a neutral card because it has a gray color where the spell color should be. So this can be played by any element stone stack, including element stone stacks that are comprised entirely of neutral element stones. And here are some of the neutral element creatures. And in the case of Underworld, they're all tend to be golems. So you have the iron golem, gold golem, clay golem, and a stone golem. Another interesting card that I like is this demonic stone. It's a neutral element stone, and it provides 2 neutral energy. So normally this is going to add to whatever element stone stack it's on, but now that we have our neutral creatures and spells, this by itself is extremely powerful, because I can play a bunch of these golems already and that mind blocker and all sorts of other neutral cards with just this one neutral element stone. Alright, now we also have our dual energy stones. So these are going to produce 2 different types of energy. And you don't have to choose which one. It's interchangeable at the time that you cast a spell or summon a creature. So this is going to be earth and air. It's called the peak stone. So this is going to be at the bottom of your element stone pile, and it's going to produce 2 of whichever you choose at that point in time. So for example, if I have this demonic stone out and I have the peak stone on top of it here, this is going to produce 3 earth or 3 air energy, or in the case of neutral creatures it produces 3 energy, because the neutrals doesn't matter. So you could say, for example, play this gold golem. So again, these can be extremely powerful. So instead of having to put a bunch of earth stones, earth energy stones, and a bunch of air energy stones in your deck and hoping that you draw the right ones, you can put in some of these dual energy stones and make it a little bit easier for you to have the energy that you need. Now let's look at just some of the other ones quickly here. Your steam stone, that's fire and water. Magma stone is earth and fire. Plasma stone, air and fire. Island stone, earth and water. Mist stone, air and water. Now, you're going to have a player that's going to have a bunch of these dual element stones in here and trying to get out all sorts of creatures. So how can you attack against that? How can you really stick it to them? Well, here's a card that I really enjoy. It's called Shatter. And Shatter says destroy target element stone. These can be extremely powerful, and you can see it costs 3, so it's not a cheap spell. But if, for example, you have an opponent that has a bunch of producing a bunch of dual energies like this, so they're producing, say, 3 air, you play Shatter on them, you kill off this element stone, boom, now they don't have any air or any water, they're just stuck with neutral. So Shatter can be an extremely powerful ability or spell to cast. Another new type of ability or spell in Underworld is neutralization. So here's a card called Forbid, and it's a flash spell, meaning you can play it from your hand at any time, even to interrupt your opponent's turn. And it says neutralize target spell or creature. You can neutralize a spell or creature the moment it is played from his or her owner's hand. It goes directly to the owner's archive instead of to the playing field. So in other words, if your opponent casts a spell or summons a big creature, you play this out of your hand, and that immediately goes into their discard pile. So very powerful. And there's some other cards that have this neutralization power as well. Here's another card I really like. Full Grown Hydra. So this is a 4 power, 3 defense creature. And it says, Full-grown Hydra can attack up to 4 creatures and or players. You may distribute damage dealt this way. So this is very nice. So instead of having to choose to attack one player or attack one creature, you can distribute their 4 power as you wish. So that's a good way to kill off a few smaller creatures and then do some basic leftover damage to the player or any other sorts of things. Here's another one I really like. Chaos Gorger. So this is a 0-1, and you're thinking, well, that doesn't seem too helpful. It says Chaos Gorger gets +1 attack until end of turn for each card that has been put into its controller's archive this turn. You're thinking, well, why? What? You know, you may not understand the potential of this particular card. It costs only 1 fire energy to get out there, so it's cheap. But you're thinking, why would I want to keep putting things into my archive? Well, a couple different reasons. If you have a boon deck, you're going to have a lot of cards that are that you're going to be playing that are going to be putting cards continually into your archive because you want those boon cards to come out so you can play them for free. And every time that you play a card that allows you to discard cards into your discard pile to hopefully get boon cards, you're also benefiting this card because you're placing cards into your discard pile. So for example, play Wind of Chance. Discard all cards from your hand, then discard 5, or then draw 5 cards. Time Leap. Put the top 5 cards from your spellbook into your archive. You get 1 additional turn after this one. So there's going to be all sorts of cards that can make Chaos Gorger very, very powerful and strong, and at the same time be benefiting you if you use a boon deck. Again, here's another one, Tsunami, one I really like. Put the top 5 cards from your spellbook into your archive. Destroy all opponent creatures. So again, you can see that maybe on the surface this card by itself is not that helpful, but when you build a strategy, in this case maybe a boon deck, cards like this are going to be very, very powerful. And I just have a couple more cards that I really like. One is Will-O the Wisp, rather. It's a quick attacker, meaning as soon as you play it, it can start attacking. And this is a 6-1, and it cannot block. So you bring this guy out, you immediately attack for 6 damage. So you get a few of these in your deck, it can do massive damage. And then finally this guy here, Time Magus. So it has a play effect, meaning it takes effect as soon as it comes into play, and says you get an additional turn after this one. And then it also has a leave effect, which says skip your next turn. So if you need that extra turn to do some damage, because say your opponent doesn't have any creatures out to block, or you want to destroy some of their creatures in an extra turn so they can't come and attack you, you know, cards like this are very, very nice to have. So that's just a few of the new cards that come in the Underworld expansion. And let me tell you, there are a bunch more, and as you would expect, the artwork in the game is fantastic. I really like the designer's art style, and I know for the expansions he's had another professional artist doing the coloring on these while he just does the line drawings. So they look very, very nice. I'm just kind of going through some of them here. So again, Elemental Clash Underworld, a nice, fat, new expansion. I don't think there's a lot more I can really say about Elemental Clash Underworld. It's a great expansion. You get 200 new cards. You get the new dual energy element stones. You get neutral creatures. You get neutralization effects. I think it adds a lot more to the game and creates the ability to make decks with a lot more strategy or different types of strategy. So if you're on the fence after watching my review of the base game, I really think that Underworld adds a lot to it. So if you haven't already checked out Elemental Clash, I definitely suggest that you do it now. You are not going to go wrong by purchasing the base set along with the Underworld expansion. And there is another expansion, Spellforce, which I'm going to do a review of next. Also, you can look at all the different cards that come in all the expansions on the elementalclash.com website. So if you just want to go through, and if you're a collectible card game player and you just want to look at the cards beforehand and formulate some kinds of decks and see if it's the type of game you'd really want to get into and how much variability there is, you can definitely go to the website and check out all the cards there. So thanks for watching, and definitely check out Elemental Clash Underworld.